Before the story begins, I'd like to ask you to subscribe and like. This will help the channel grow. He's Snowfall Murder, Winter Detective Story. New Year's Eve arrived wrapped in silence. Snow fell thick and slow over the mountain town of Whitebridge, the kind of snow that swallowed sound and made even distant laughter feel unreal. Fireworks were scheduled for midnight, but hours before the celebration, Detective Lucas Reeve stood in the frozen courtyard of the Alder Hotel, staring at a body lying face down in the snow. Thomas Hale, a well-known local businessman, had collapsed just minutes earlier. His tuxedo was dusted white, the black fabric absorbing flakes as if the night itself was trying to hide him. One gloved hand still clutched a champagne glass, its stem cracked, the liquid inside half frozen. The snow around the body was strangely untouched. No struggle, no frantic steps, except for one thin trail of footprints leading toward the side gate, already fading beneath fresh snowfall. Inside the hotel, warm light spilled from tall windows. Music still played faintly, violins unaware they were now soundtracking a crime scene. Guests waited nervously, their reflections trembling in the glass. The annual New Year's Gala had drawn half the town. Politicians, investors, old families who smiled politely while counting grudges like debts. Everyone claimed they had been watching the clock. Everyone claimed they had seen nothing. Lucas crouched beside the body, the cold seeping through his knees. There was no blood, no visible wound. Hale's face was frozen in shock, his mouth slightly open, as if he had tried to speak and failed. Lucas leaned closer to the glass. The scent reached him, faintly sweet, artificial, wrong. Not champagne. A doctor arrived and examined the body briefly before pulling Lucas aside. His voice was low, careful. Poison. Fast acting. He wouldn't have felt much. At midnight, fireworks exploded above Whitebridge, painting the sky in red and gold. Cheers echoed through the hotel halls. In the courtyard, no one celebrated. Lucas straightened slowly, eyes moving to the glowing windows. The killer hadn't fled into the storm. They were still inside, counting down the new year with everyone else. And winter had just claimed its first secret. The Alder Hotel was sealed before midnight struck anywhere else in the world. Security locked the doors as guests were guided back into the grand hall, their expensive coats rustling, their conversations dissolving into whispers. Half-empty champagne glasses rested on white tablecloths like abandoned evidence, each one suddenly suspicious. Lucas moved slowly among the crowd, listening more than speaking. Fear had a sound, shallow breathing, forced laughter, the scrape of shoes against marble. Thomas Hale had enemies. Too many to count. Business partners pushed aside. Employees dismissed weeks before the holidays. A brother he hadn't spoken to in years. Everyone had toasted him earlier that night. Everyone had smiled. The poison glass was unique. Lab results came back quickly. The toxin hadn't been mixed into the bottle. It had been applied directly to the rim, a thin, invisible layer. Precision like that required timing. Patience. Someone had known exactly which glass Hale would lift. Security footage offered another fracture in the night. At 11:41 p.m. cameras across the West Wing went dark for 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Official explanation: heavy snowfall interfering with the signal. Lucas didn't believe in coincidences that clean. In a trash bin near the kitchen corridor, he found a discarded linen glove. Not staff-issued. Too fine. Dry-cleaned regularly. The kind worn by someone who didn't like leaving fingerprints behind. A waitress approached him quietly, eyes darting toward the crowd. She said Hale had argued with someone near the balcony minutes before he died. A woman. Long coat. Face hidden by a scarf. When Lucas asked why she hadn't spoken sooner, the waitress swallowed hard and whispered, "Because she's still here." Snow pressed against the tall windows, sealing the hotel in white silence. Time, like winter, was tightening its grip. Lucas reviewed the guest list again and again until one name refused to blend in: Clara Widmore, former business partner of Thomas Hale, forced out of the company 3 years earlier, financially ruined, quietly erased from Whitebridge's social circles. She sat alone in the lounge, scarf still wrapped tightly around her neck despite the heat. Her posture was calm, deliberate. When Lucas questioned her, she met his gaze without flinching. "Yes," she said evenly. "I argued with him. I told him he would be remembered for what he did." She claimed she left immediately afterward. No one confirmed it. No one denied it either. A search of her room revealed nothing illegal. No poison. No notes. Nothing, until Lucas noticed the bathroom window slightly open, snow dusting the sill. Below it, faint marks suggested something had been lowered carefully, not dropped. In the service stairwell, officers discovered a small vial hidden inside a fire extinguisher case. Empty. Cleaned meticulously. The residue matched the poison that killed Hale. Clara didn't run. She didn't confess. Instead, she looked at Lucas and said quietly, "You're looking at the wrong ending." Lucas felt something shift. This murder wasn't about rage or impulse. It was about choreography. And someone else had helped set the clock. Fireworks had faded, but the tension inside the Alder Hotel only deepened. Lucas replayed the blackout window again and again. For minutes and 30 seconds. Too long for an accident. Too short to draw attention unless someone needed it. Control of the hotel's electrical system traced back to a single access point. One person had authority that night. Daniel Hale. Victor Hale's nephew. The primary heir. Daniel claimed he was outside during the blackout. Conveniently unrecorded. His breath caught too quickly when Lucas questioned him. In his coat pocket, Lucas found a silk handkerchief, fibers identical to those lifted from the poisoned glass. Daniel cracked under pressure, but not the way Lucas expected. "I didn't kill him," Daniel insisted. "I helped Clara get close. I wanted him exposed. Ruined. Not dead." Daniel admitted to staging the blackout, to creating chaos, to opening doors. But fear didn't kill Thomas Hale. Precision did. Lucas realized the poison had been applied moments before the toast, after the argument. That narrowed the list brutally. Only one person moved freely. Trusted. Invisible. Someone pouring drinks. The bar at the Alder Hotel had always been a place of comfort. Warm wood, soft amber light, the low murmur of conversations blending with the clink of glass. That night, it felt like a confession booth. Samuel Price stood behind the counter as officers cleared the last guests from the hall. He wiped the same spot on the bar again and again, though it was already clean. His movements were slow, deliberate, the kind learned over decades of repetition. But his hands trembled, just enough for Lucas Reed to notice. Price had worked here for 20 years. He knew the weight of every bottle, the exact angle needed to pour without spilling, the unspoken rules of serving men who thought money bought silence. He had poured drinks for weddings, business deals, funerals disguised as celebrations. He had poured for Victor Hale more times than he could count. Lucas placed the cracked champagne glass on the bar between them. "Tell me about this moment," Lucas said quietly. "When he raised it." Price swallowed. His eyes stayed on the glass. "I knew it would be the last one," he said. The words hung heavy in the air. 5 winters earlier, Price's daughter had died of respiratory failure. The official cause was listed as illness. But Lucas had already seen the buried reports. Chemical runoff traced uphill, back to land owned by Hale's company. The investigation had stalled. Witnesses disappeared. Compensation never came. Price hadn't screamed. Hadn't protested. He had waited. "I didn't poison the bottle," Price said. That would have killed someone else. Maybe more. That wasn't justice. He explained how he dissolved the toxin into a clear solution hours earlier, hidden in a cleaning vial, how he timed the blackout, how he brushed the rim of Hale's glass with practiced precision as he handed it over, the way a bartender's fingers always touch glass, unnoticed, unquestioned. One touch, Price whispered. That's all it took. Lucas felt the weight of it settle in his chest. This wasn't rage. This was grief sharpened into patience. As officers placed the cuffs on Price, the bartender didn't resist. He only looked at the bar one last time, the place where he had watched the town drink and forget. I just wanted him to taste what Winter took from me, he said. Dawn came slowly to Whitebridge, pale and cold. Snow fell again, lighter this time, covering the courtyard as if the night had never happened. Workers moved quietly, dismantling the remnants of the New Year's celebration, half-lit garlands, abandoned banners, a clock frozen at midnight. Samuel Price was led away without spectacle. No cameras. No crowd. Just the soft crunch of boots and fresh snow. Clara Whitmore stood near the entrance as he passed. Their eyes met briefly. There was no triumph there. Only exhaustion. Years of waiting had ended in a single moment, and it hadn't brought the relief either of them expected. Daniel Hale left town before sunrise. His car crossed the bridge as fog rolled in from the river, swallowing his taillights whole. Inheritance papers would follow. Guild would not. Lucas remained behind. He walked the courtyard one last time, stopping where Victor Hale had fallen. The snow was smooth now, unbroken. Winter had done what it always did, erased the evidence, softened the edges, hidden the blood beneath beauty. Inside the hotel, silence replaced music. Staff spoke in whispers. Glasses were boxed away. The bar lights stayed off. At home later that morning, Lucas stood by his window, watching Whitebridge wake slowly. Children dragged sleds across sidewalks. Shopkeepers brushed snow from their steps. Life continued, indifferent to justice, to truth, to the cost of remembering. Some crimes, Lucas thought, never really end. They just wait. He poured himself a drink and stopped, setting the glass back untouched. Outside, snow continued to fall, covering everything evenly, the guilty and the innocent alike. Winter didn't forgive. It only remembered.